Welcome to episode number 6 of the Between Two Brands podcast. I'm your host, Bill Petrie, and happy to have you guys here. Hard to believe we're at 6 already. In a week, we'll be at 7. I can do math like that because I went to Texas A&M. But hey, before we get started today, let me go ahead and pay the rent. Hey, kids, in 2025, your clients are looking for more than just a product with their logo on it. They're looking for rock-solid merchandise solutions that are more than just innovative. They're going to be used for months and years to come. Let me introduce you, or maybe in some cases reintroduce you, to the good folks over at Coaster Stone. They are the original manufacturer of absorbent stone coasters with unmatched durability, quality, and gorgeous edge-to-edge decorating that's going to allow your creative designs to come to life in vibrant, full-color detail. Now, since 1983, Coaster Stone has set the standard when it comes to delivering a retail-inspired experience to any client function. Instead of boring and plain packaging, how about packaging options that are customizable? Coaster Stone delivers value far beyond the product itself with a combination of stone cold quality, striking decorations, cost per impression, and unmatched value. David Glenn and his team are ready to make a rock solid impression with your clients. Email them at promo@coasterstone.com to start your next project today. All right, like I said, this is episode number 6, flying along here as trying to get into a new habit. Had certain habits with the Promo Front podcast with my good pal Kirby. And spoiler alert, he's going to be up in a few weeks as we do the Powerhouse Women of Promo podcast. Looking forward to that. But getting into a new rhythm here in this first section is a challenging one because I'm trying to figure out what do I want to talk about every week, and I don't want to pigeonhole myself into certain topics. That being said, let me go ahead and pigeon myself into a certain topic, and that is I am really tired. I have some notes down here, so I'm going to glance down occasionally. I am really tired of people complaining on the Promotional Products Professionals Facebook page. Now, before I begin, this has been common fodder for any podcast I've been a part of for the past 8 years, and for good reason. But before I get into my complaint about this specific type of post, let me go ahead and reiterate that group is so much more good than not good. There are so many helpful people on there. There are so many good things that come out of that group. Collaboration. There's all sorts of innovation. There's all sorts of idea generating. A lot of good things on that Facebook page. So I don't want to cast everything negative here. But unfortunately, sometimes the negative things do come to light. And this is one of them. About a week and a half ago, and I sat on this because I really didn't want to talk about it, but here I am. Someone posted this. Koozie Group struck again. Stay away, far, far away. I thought about actually outing this person, but I'm going to go ahead and not do that. But that was the post. And I don't understand. I really don't understand posts like this. What's the goal here? It doesn't seem like there's resolution because you're not tagging someone from Koozie. You're not reaching out to someone from Koozie. You're not even inviting Koozie to assist you. And it's not advice from anybody in the group, the group's so great for advice. It's not advice on how to handle something because there's no request for assistance. There are 0 details in this post. It's just stay far away. And this is the type of posting that absolutely exhausts me. I'm not saying there wasn't an issue. There may well have been. But posting a random vent without any details to shame a supplier is at best a very questionable decision if you're really trying to form some sort of symbiotic partnership. But at worst, it's attacking a company with intentionally vague details or being intentionally vague. And it's an accusation. I really don't get it. So here's my takeaway. As I go to another merchatorial or billatorial, or whatever the hell you want to call this. If you have an issue with a supplier, you're going to find a lot better options for resolution than venting on Promotional Products Professionals page. Now, let's be clear. Suppliers aren't perfect. But here's the thing. Nobody is. I'm not. The original poster isn't. There's nobody that's perfect. And let's also remember that not all distributor orders arrive at the supplier facility pristine. There there's always lack of order on a detail. Sometimes there's really shitty artwork. There's vague instructions. There's misinformation, etc. Most of the time, I see posts like this. I go ahead and give the supplier the benefit of the doubt. And I assume that the distributor probably made a mistake and doesn't want to own up to it, or that the distributor is being unreasonable trying to solve the issue. Because there's very few reasons really to go to social media to complain and moan and bitch like this. I really don't get it. So I've decided to give a guideline of how to add adequately and how to properly use the promotional products forum to complain about a supplier. So I hope you're taking notes. This is my opinion only. Number one, email or call the supplier when you have an issue. There's no reason to air your dirty laundry if you encounter an issue. You're going to find better solutions if you contact them directly. If you don't, number two, if you don't get a response from the supplier or resolution within a reasonable amount of time, I don't know what that is. It's going to vary depending on the project. If you don't get a resolution or a response in a reasonable amount of time, call or ask or go ahead and speak to their supervisor directly. Try to go up the chain. Again, there's no reason that everybody in the world needs to know about your issue with a supplier, which more than likely is a one-off issue and not indicative of the supplier being quote unquote bad. All right, number three, remember it's a partnership, and depending on the situation, Mr. or Mrs. Distributor, you might have to give a little as well. Realize that maybe you sent in an order that was incomplete. Maybe realize you didn't complete the proof process in time to meet your enhanced date. Realize that you may actually be part of the issue as well. I'm not saying you always are. I'm saying that sometimes you might be. And a little bit of compromise goes a long way. And number four, at last resort, if you have to vent, if you feel the only way I'm going to get any sort of resolution on this is to vent publicly to get help, do it respectfully. You can say something like, hey, community, I'm frustrated with company X, or you can even say, I'm frustrated with a supplier, and I'd really like to speak to someone that could help me at that supplier. There's no reason you can't do that. People understand that things happen. Hell, I've had things happen to me both in the industry and any sort of organization where I found it frustrating to get resolution. And yes, there are times I have gone to the internet to get help just because I couldn't get help anywhere else. But it's always done in a respectful way. It's a, hey, I'm really struggling to get resolution here. Can someone from brand X please DM me or send me a message or give me a call? That I think we all can understand. When you post something cryptically like brand X struck again, stay far, far away, that gets zero credence with me. Zero. So while every company has their challenges from time to time, be a little respectful. I think you'll find it goes a long way. All right, before we go, let's pay a little more rent, and then we'll go to our guest today. Hey, do you know what season it is? That's right, it's business valuation season. Perhaps you don't know what your company's worth. Maybe it's been more than a few years since your last valuation and you need a new benchmark to see if your company is increasing in value. Heck, you might even want to see if it's time to sell your company. Regardless of the reason, Jamie Watson and the experts at Certified Marketing Consultants have extensive experience in the world of branded merchandise, and they have the knowledge necessary to provide a fact-based valuation of your business. Simply email them at info@certifiedmarketing.com for a confidential discussion today, and they'll help you out. All right, let's go ahead and get to our guest. Today's guest needs absolutely no introduction, so please allow me to waste a little bit of your time and ours by doing it anyway. Our guest today is the CEO and fifth generation owner of Warwick Publishing Company in St. Charles, Illinois. For the last half decade, he has been leading the charge of revitalizing what Warwick brings to market and how they operate in the cross-sectional space between commercial printing and the promotional products industry. Driven by his passion for excellence, he leans heavily in his engineering background as he takes an aggressive approach, yet technical approach to growth, sustainability, and efficiency in the promotional products market while blending the complex nature of commercial printing. He's also a 2023 PPAI Rising Star, and as of January of this year, 2025, he is on the board of directors of PPA Chicago and Wisconsin. Additionally, under his leadership, Warwick was recognized with the Counselor's Family Business of the Year in 2021 and the City of St. Charles inaugural Made in St. Charles Award in 2023 and hit the number 74 slot on PPAI's Top 100 Supplier Ranking of 2024. Please join me in welcoming the one and only Alex Paschal, MBA, MAS from Warwick Publishing. Alex,
Thank
that is
you.
that is one hell of an intro you wrote.
You're not supposed to tell the audience that.
I know it was so wordy, it sounded like I wrote it.
Hey, now I'm the wordiest there is. I don't know how many people have been on the receiving ends of my novel length emails, but it takes many, many printer pages to print some of them out at times.
No, it's all great, great. It's all the accolades are great. It's great to have you here. Thank you for coming on board.
Thank you
I
very
believe you've
much.
brought, yeah, you bet. I believe you've brought maybe a topic or two you'd like to start off with before we get to know
Yeah.
you a little bit better with some five easy questions.
Yeah. So I think the first one I have for you is talking about journey and career and growth. In your
Okay.
career, how has the growth kind of manifested into your personal life? Specifically, what key value or strength have you picked up from your professional career that's carried over your personal life and has been an enormous addition?
Wow, normally that would be difficult for me. A great question. You're making me think, which
Oh,
is,
God forbid that actually happened.
yeah, I think it makes everybody a little bit tense, including myself. But actually, this is an easy one for me to answer, and it's resilience. I have been knocked on my ass many times, both professionally, certainly, and personally. It's pretty well documented professionally. Was fired from Halo, and I was downsized at another company, and so on and so forth, and I've had to reinvent myself a few times and figure out where I felt that my talents truly lied and my passions certainly lied within the industry. And so I've been extremely resilient having to do that. And that's helped me a lot in my personal life. I don't care who they are, no one's journey is this nice little linear trajectory
No, not at
upwards.
all.
It's up, it's down, it's backwards, it's forwards, it's every which way. But learning how to reinvent myself, learning how to be resilient and realize that, hey, the bad times aren't going to last. The good times will come again. And understanding during the good times, they don't last either. None of
No,
that
they certainly
stuff
don't.
is none of that stuff is permanent. Failure is not permanent, neither is success. It's all temporary, and temporary can be relative. And so I think really understanding that and realizing and doing some self-reflection of what do I need to change to move forward has helped me immensely in both. What about you? What lessons have you learned? I'd like to hear your response to that question. What one lesson have you learned in your professional life that's helped you personally, Alex?
I think I would say that in my professional career, I've added a whole new layer of discipline that I didn't have before. Obviously, for those of who don't know, I went straight from college into working for Warwick, coming to the family business. And, I was a pretty good student. I had the discipline to succeed in engineering, had the discipline to teach in grad school, pardon me, had the discipline to kind of stay on top of my health and handle everything. But then coming into the working world, it's a whole different layer when you're in the top. If you don't do it, no one does. And that was I wouldn't say a hard or an easy pill to swallow, but jumping in January of 2020 and then COVID happening 2.5 months later and flipping everything on its head, um, forced the requirement to grow and be way more disciplined in everything that I do and being intentional. And that's kind of carried over in my personal life because things that just didn't automatically happen, like, oh, I can do the dishes tomorrow morning. Oh, I'll go to the gym tomorrow. Like, it's like clockwork. It's mechanical. Like, I don't even think about skipping it. I don't even think about not doing it. Whereas 6 years ago, that was a conversation that would happen in my head. Do I do it or do
Yeah.
I not?
Yeah, that's great. I love that the discipline thing. I think that's such an underrated thing we talk about. It's that self accountability of, if you don't do the dishes, a great analogy. If you don't do the dishes, I mean, you live by yourself, who cares? You deal with
Mm-hmm.
it some other time. But it's also, within that discipline, within that accountability comes pride. Pride of, if it's worth doing, it's worth doing right. And I know you well enough to know that is something you absolutely live by.
Mm-hmm. Well, and there is a key difference between discipline and motivation too that I think people don't talk about. You listen to an energizing song, you're like, yeah, I can go run a marathon, but do you have the discipline to finish that marathon? That's
Right.
an important distinction there.
Right. And on the other side too, there's an important distinction between discipline and ability. You might have the discipline to run a marathon, but maybe you don't have the ability yet. You have to work up to it. So, I mean, there's all these subtle nuances there, but it all comes back to what you talked about is discipline and having the discipline. So you might not be able to run a marathon today, but if you do a little bit today, a little bit tomorrow, and slowly work up to it, regardless of what age you are, you can accomplish those things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great question, Alex. Wow, made me think on a serious level this morning.
Oh, just wait.
Oh, okay.
Is question time for question number two?
Sure. Fire away.
What would we have done if you'd said no? So I was
I don't know.
probably do it anyway. So
Yeah.
I was blessed with the reality of being very close to both my father and my uncle as I grew up, and
Yeah.
I would consider them my absolute number one and number two, not in any particular order, role models.
Hmm.
They taught me a ton of stuff, and I wish I know at the end of the day, like I could have learned more from them had they still been here.
Yeah.
Given your two sons,
Yeah.
what's one thing you hope you have successfully taught or want to make sure you teach them to make sure they grow into fine, upstanding young men?
Ooh, okay, now you're really making me think. I'll try to do this without getting emotional. Um, I think passion is one, um, but I think that's a given. So it's kind of a layup answer. I don't think I'm going to stick with that. Passion's certainly one of them. I think compassion is definitely one of them. Compassion for the people who love you the most, because I'm a big believer. It's easy to hurt the ones that love you the most. It's the easiest to do that. So
Yeah.
compassion for those people, but then also compassion for the world as a whole. That you can do small things within your sphere of influence to make the world a better place for maybe even just a small subset of people. Caring um, that it's good to give of yourself, whether that's helping somebody out who maybe can't help themselves, whether it's donating your time to a worthy cause, whether if you're in the position to do it, donating financially to a certain cause, all those things. It could be any of those things. I think the one thing I would hope more than anything that I've taught them to care for themselves. Over the last um, year and a half, and you're aware of this, and I think some of our listeners are, I've gone through a pretty big transformation because I had to. I got diagnosed with a pretty serious disease in diabetes, adult onset type 1 diabetes, and it was a wake up call. And so you have that decision. You have a choice. Do I answer that wake
Mhm.
up call or do I not? And I think through that, I mean, I've been very disciplined. We talked about that earlier. I eat fairly clean for the most part. I've cut sugar almost effectively out of my life. Same thing with processed foods. And that's not, hey, Jill, pat yourself on the back. It's something I felt I had to do. I still miss Pringles. I still miss some of those things. But it was necessary for me if I want to be here to see my kids graduate from college, if I want to see them get married, if I want to see them have grandkids. That
Mhm.
was important to me. So I hope through that experience, and now I run almost every day and all these things. My life is so completely different than it was a year and a half ago. It's night and day. And I even look different for crying out loud. So I'm
You're
hoping
still
through
gorgeous,
that.
Bill.
Oh, thank you very little. I really hope I've shown them that, it, you can care for yourself and still care for others. It's not selfishness, but prioritizing your health, prioritizing the things that are important to you. You can still be part of a larger community that you can get back to. I don't know if that answered your question or not. I kind of
No,
rambled a
you
little bit
did.
there.
And a follow up, that resiliency you talked about in the first, obviously that played into weathering the last year and a half.
Yeah.
But do you feel like you've displayed a lot of that to your sons and they've kind of picked up on that? Have they bounced back from setbacks?
Oh yeah. No, I think so. And I mean, I think they've learned from both me and Sandy. I mean, if a lot of people know Sandy had a pretty serious health scare herself, a lot more serious than mine, quite honestly. I mean, she had a sudden cardiac arrest in her home almost 9 years ago, and by every statistic by the American Heart Association, she should have been dead. And she had a 7% chance of living. And then of the 7% of people who live after something like that, over 85% of them have severe mental or physical handicaps. She doesn't have that. So she's truly a miracle. And I think they've
Mhm.
learned that, does she have some lingering effects? Yeah, we call them black spots. Sometimes her short-term memory isn't what it used to be. I think that kind of happens when you stop breathing for 6 minutes. But they
Yeah.
accept that and they see how resilient she has been and how hard she's worked to become, or remain the excellent mother and caretaker she has. So I think they see that, and they've certainly had their setbacks. They just like all of us. We look at social media, and I'll steal from Kirby Hasseman here. Everybody's social media feed is generally their highlight reel, and that's why I think I'm very comfortable sharing my failures. Yeah, I got fired from Halo, and yeah, this is things bad have happened because that's part of life's entire pie.
Well, and that's where you grow
But
too. You don't grow from just absolute success.
no, no, you need to get kind of knocked down on your ass every once in a while and figure out what it's like to pick yourself up and dust
Mm.
yourself off. And goodness knows it's happened to me. It happens to me all the time. And so I've seen them both hit some
Good.
snags, both personally and scholastically, depending on, when we're talking about, but they both learn from those foibles. And I guess as a parent, that's what you hope for more than anything. We've never been the type of parents that like, we're going to shield and protect you from every mistake. We're very much of the belief of you've got to make some of your own mistakes so you learn how to fix them. Because the longer you delay that, the more expensive and the more complex those problems get. Trust me.
Well, and we see that here with, obviously I don't have any kids, but, I've got a lot of people that report to me, controlled failure is the best way to learn. I'd rather you make a $500 mistake than a $50,000 mistake, but you
Right.
got to still make a mistake to grow.
Right. No, absolutely. Absolutely. Who your dad was your role model? What one when you think about when you think about all the lessons he taught you, and I know he taught you plenty. What's the one word that comes to mind, Alex, when you think of the lessons your dad taught you?
Ethics,
Love that.
making sure that, there's doing what is right and there's doing what is acceptable and
Yeah.
just doing what is normal. And those are not always the same thing.
Yeah.
And, the core thing that he taught me is making sure that your decisions don't keep you up at night. When you put that head on the pillow, if you have something that's bothering you, the next day you got to reconcile it. Done. End of story.
That's a great lesson. That's a great lesson. Probably a good jumping off point as we got
Mm-hmm.
very serious here in the promo. Former, geez, I was going to do it again. It's called Between
Yeah.
Two Brands podcast, right?
Yeah.
Old habits die hard. You do
Oh man.
440 episodes of something, you tend to forget that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm gonna now let's get funky. Let's get a little awkward. I've got five very awkward but very easy questions for you to answer. Let me put on my spectacles to read them
He's got
in
to
the
be able to
manner of my
read.
choosing. Alex,
That is me.
you're the fifth generation owner and CEO of Warwick. Do you ever feel like your ancestors are watching over you, judging your every move, and muttering, "That's not how we did it in 1898"?
Oh, absolutely. So when I jumped in right in 2020, the number of times I heard, well, that's not how we do it. We've always done it like this, constantly. Now everyone in the building knows that you can't say that exact sentence to me anymore, but they find the most creative ways to say it to me. So even it's not just people looking down saying, well, that's not how we did it all day long. We get it.
Yeah.
And
You get people saying, go ahead.
it's very much people catch themselves when they say like, wait, why are we doing that? It's almost like a Pavlov. You've trained them to realize like, hold
It
on, maybe that's not
does.
the best way to do it.
Well, and I think what you do, and again, I've done some work together and things like that. I know you want people to challenge not even just the way it's always been done, but feel comfortable challenge the way I'm planning on doing it. Because, and I always felt the same way. And I think what you do when you do that, Alex, is you empower people to think critically of the organization in a positive way. So I
Mhm.
love that. All right. You're kind of a tech nerd, yet you have a very unhealthy dislike for all things Apple. If you had to create a Warwick product inspired by Apple's business model, would it A, cost 5 times as much as it should, B, only be compatible with other Warwick products from the same year, or C, randomly stop working until you buy a new, slightly upgraded version?
I got torn between, as I've listened to that, torn between two of them. Um, Thinking about our distributors, obviously, I would love to have something sell for 5 times more because then they can have a massive margin on it too, and everybody wins.
Right.
But part of me also wants it to break randomly for planned obsolescence, as much as I don't love the ethical nature of that. But I don't know what we could have in our line that would be that expensive, but some food for thought. Could do
Yeah, I
that.
think it's something to give
Yeah.
some consideration to.
Yeah.
You cut an imposing figure, and people sometimes find you intense. How often do people assume you're about to power slam them when you're simply asking them where the nearest Starbucks is?
It's more often than I would have expected. A lot of it was in college and then right after college, just because I was so much bigger than the average college student. But then as life has gone on and the people I'm around start to know me, they're realizing he's just this big teddy bear. He's not going to hurt anybody. At the gym, yeah, people will move or say things, but
Yeah.
not in promo or in business anymore.
Yeah, here I'll jump in here because I do see Alex. He's a big dude. He's a big, but he is a lovable type. But deep down, he's a softie and he cares. He's got so much compassion and so much just of himself to give. But I do. It's very funny when I'm talking to you at a trade show or something, and I see someone come up to you and just kind of very timidly say hi. Just wanted to say hi. Don't want to interrupt. Man, there is so much fear in their eyes. You could look at them like some sort of Viking looking at a glass of mead and a horn, and I think they would freak out.
Well, and there's photos out there of me back when I had my long hair and a fuller beard. So it was
Yeah,
my nickname in college was Discount Thor because I
I
looked like
like
Thor
that.
in one of the movies. I just didn't have any of his money. But
I love that. Okay, so discount Thor. To relax, you play golf, but you also will seize any opportunity for mischief. I know this about you. If the
no, never.
PGA let you design a new tournament, what's the most absurd rule you'd add to mess with the players and amp up the entertainment?
Hmm. So buddy and I of mine, stole this from a social media trend where you get one stroke off your score for every beer you finish on the course. So yeah, I don't think the PGA would ever get behind it, but the LIV tour would definitely. All right, one beer, one stroke. Let her rip,
Yeah.
boys. I bet that would make for some entertaining par three shots.
Yeah, I think I would also add that the golfers need to be mic'd up all the time with no filter.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Can you
Just
imagine prime Tiger Woods or Phil Mickelson? Oh, you could never air the footage.
but that's why you'd have to air the footage. All right, final question. Lately, you've stepped up your social media game. I've noticed it. The industry's noticed it. Everybody's noticed it. It's damn impressive. Are you comfortable sharing who hurt you on the inside to the point that you need to find validation from others through a screen?
So no one hurt me on the inside. Our revenue hurt me on the inside, I think is a better way to say. I kind of realized that the Warwick brand and the Alex brand are somewhat ubiquitous. And I'd like to see our company grow. I'd like to see us be a lot bigger and be a reliable supplier. And doing that means people need to know I exist too. So
Yeah, and you, truth, kidding aside, you've done a really nice job
thank
blending
you.
the two. You are the face of Warwick. Phil is as well, Phil Martin, who works for you and with you. But as the owner, you really are that face of the organization. I think you've done a really nice job of blending in. This is Alex, and this is Warwick Alex, and they're kind of the same, and all that. So I think you've done a great job. Do you have any other comments before we wrap this episode 6 up?
I'm really excited to appear on more podcasts. So this is the second of many, and hopefully many, many, many more down the line. So thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, and we'd be remiss if we didn't thank our good pals over at Coaster Stone. You know, since 1983, they have set the standard when it comes to delivering a retail inspire experience to any client function. With that combination of stone cold quality, striking decoration, cost per impression, and unmatched value, David Gillette and his team are ready to help you make a rock solid impression with your clients. Email them at promo@coasterstone.com to start your next project today. Alex, again, thank you for joining me on the Between Two Brands podcast, and we'll see you next time.